Okay, since we didn't have a complete success with either pancakes or bread, I'm going to walk you through making both. So over here I'm going to make pancakes, and over here I'm going to make bread for pizzas tonight. Now, my sourdough starter had been sitting for about 2 weeks. I had somebody come in and refeed it, but it's been sitting, and one of the things to notice is that probably the best consistency is as it is right now. It's so you can stir it. So we don't want it to stand up like a loaf, we want it to be stirrable. Now, to make pancakes, I'm not going to make many, I'm just going to make one really. I'm going to take 1 scoop, this is about a half cup, my scoop is, and I'm going to put it into here, like so. Now, since I'm using 2 hands, I'm going to take a little bit more and put it in, but that's about 1 scoop's worth. Now, I'm going to come over here to bread. And for bread, I'm going to make a little bit more. How much you make, of course, how much you put in depends on how much you want to make. But I'm going to make really one nice pizza crust for me. So I'm going to dump about 2 scoops into my mixer bowl. And what the mixer bowl is going to do is to save me from kneading it. So there we are. Got about 2 of these scoops, and again, since I'm not cleaning out the last bit, I'm going to put in parts of a 3rd one. So we've got about that much sitting in there. Now, to refeed the bread, or the starter, I just put in about the same amount of flour as I took out just then. And then I put in about the same amount of water, but the real goal is to get it to this consistency that is kind of like heavy batter. It's stirrable. Okay, next step is for the pancake, I'm going to take egg whites, or be better if this were whole egg, but Jill takes the yolks out. So I'm going to take the egg white and put, since I don't have 2 hands, I'm going to put in about 1 of my scoops full, which is about a half cup. So you'll see there's really not too much in there. So it's a ratio about 1 to 2, 1 part egg white and the other starter. Next step, I'm going to put in about a half teaspoon of salt. And if I can do it here with 1 hand, I can't. I'm going to put in about the same amount of baking soda, which I think you call bicarbonate. So there it is. Pour that in. Now, last thing I need to put in is a little bit of olive oil. About a tablespoon of olive oil. So that's about a tablespoon. Now, next step is I turn on the burner to just medium low. Yeah, that's about how it looks. So it's not too hot, but these are good burners. And this is a lot like the, this is standard skillet fry pan. And I'm going to put in enough olive oil to just wet the bottom, or Jill would want me to spray it, which uses less olive oil, but I'm trying to do it right here instead of doing it politically correct. So I'm going to just put the oil in, and we want that to be pretty warm. Now, while that's getting warm, I'm going to come over here and take this this is a mixer, just a standard one, and it saves me a lot of strife. So we'll mix this up, and you'll notice that the batter gets about maybe twice as big, a half to twice as big. And you don't have to do this for long. In fact, you don't want to do it for too long or it starts to do strange things to your egg. So, there we are. Now, the amount of batter that I've got here is probably enough for making 2 pancakes, but I'm just going to make 1 big one. So, pour the skillet. Here we are. And it's completely filling my skillet. Now, while my pancakes are gone, I'm going to go back to my bread. So, in here I've got, remember, about 2 scoops of my starter, and I'm going to put in enough flour so that it gets to be the right consistency. And what is the right consistency? Well, we want it to ball up to now not be something that you can stir, but you can get into a ball that holds its shape, and you want it to not be sticky. And I'm going to use this really nice mixture because it does all the kneading for me and makes life easy. So I'm also going to add about a teaspoon, half teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt. That helps the action work, so it actually does something. Put this in, not just flavor it. And I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of olive oil again. It's about right. Okay, that's it. Now I just close this booger up and turn it on and let it mix until it's ready. Now back to my pancake. Notice how big bubbles are starting to come up in the middle. That's good, but if I look at it, it's kind of glazed in the middle. Around here, it's got kind of a cloud, you can see, but it's not bubbling enough here, so I don't want to flip it yet. Here's my starter, and I'm just going to take in or put in about as much flour as I took out. There we are. And then I'm going to put in about the same amount of water. No rule about this, it just has to end up being consistency so that you can stir it. So we'll test that in just a minute. Now let's take a look at the mixer. Now you'll notice if I pinch this, this is too hard, so I need some water in there. How much water? Enough to make it the right consistency. So here I've got some water, and I'm just going to pour in some. And my intuition tells me that's going to be about right. Doesn't take much. And you just keep tinkering with putting more water, more flour in until you get it the right consistency. So I'm going to close this up again. Let the beater stir all that in, and we'll check it in a minute and see how that's doing. Now back at my pancake. Now it's looking good. So see if I can flip this with one hand and hold this camera with the other. Now, I wasn't able to do that. Now I think I can. So I'm going to take this thing and flip it. Ha! And it looks pretty darn good. Now this time it doesn't need to take as long. At least 1 minute, maybe 2, probably not 3. And unfortunately you can't see it, so all you can do is flip it up and take a look at the other side. But I'm going to let it go about 1.5 minutes, and then we'll flip it off and see how it looks. Okay, I'd say my pancake's done, so take it. Yeah, my skillet hadn't been used for a while, so it's stuck a little bit. That's not good. So I'm not even going to show you the back side because it will be ugly, but it will be done. Now, what'll I do? I can put butter on it and maple syrup, but I actually like to put on something like yogurt and apple butter or something like that. So here we are, and that's a pancake that won't quit. Now notice my dough is nice. It's in a ball. It holds its shape when I hold it up. It's a little bit moist, but you can eat it. So basically it's done, and all I need to do is take it off of there, cover it with something. I do it with this gadget, but you can put saran wrap or something like that on top, and maybe cover it with a plate or something for you to keep the ants out. We don't have that problem. And then I just put this in a warm place and I'm going to let it rise until it about doubles in size. Here in Indiana, that's probably going to take between 6 and 8 hours. So it'll be ready in plenty of time for tonight for pizza. Okay, so it's now 4:30, and so this dough has been rising 8 hours or so. And it's fairly warm here today, but dough I hadn't been using recently, so it's going to be acting a little bit slower, I would guess. So if I take this lid off and you look in here, I don't know if you can tell, but it's about twice as big as it used to be. Now, I usually do this one or two ways from now on. If it's a little bit too thin, that is, the dough's too soft, I might pour a little bit of flour on the top and roll out a pizza crust on a floured surface, or I might do it by pouring some olive oil over the top if it's too hard. I'm going to do it, I think, this one's just about right, so I think I'm going to do it with olive oil, and I'm going to put it then into this cast iron skillet and put this lid on top of the skillet and bake it inside the skillet at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I forgot what I just said, whether I was going to do oil or flour, but I'm going to do flour. That's because when I started taking it out, it seemed to be a little bit on the too light side. So, what I do now if I'm making bread is just punch it down like this, and then I roll it like that, and then I would pull it up into ball and kind of stretch this side over here on the opposite side right there. So this is kind of stretched. That's what I do if I'm making bread. And then I plunk it in my skillet, let it rise for about an hour, and then the very end of that, after an hour, I would make a few strips in the top so that when it expands, it won't just crack randomly, but it'll have nice cuts in it. That's what I do if I was going to bake a crust of bread. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is make pizza. So, I'm just going to flatten it out here into crust shape, and if I want to do this fancy at a party, I would pull it out and throw it in the air, and I think that this would stretch fine, but I'm just going to roll it, be less fancy, and get it more even. So that is my pizza crust, and you can see I could be throwing this thing and it stretches. Now I'm just going to plop this into my skillet and make a nice pizza crust in here. Push it down around the edges. And that's it. So you just fill it with whatever you want to, and I'm going to bake it at 500 degrees with the lid on top, and that's it. Okay, here's the last step. I set the oven to not use convection, although your oven uses convection. It really doesn't make much difference if you put them in a cast iron skillet. I put it to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, that's as high as it'll go, and for pizza I'll probably leave it about 25 minutes. If I were baking bread, it would be about 40 minutes, and then remove the lid, and the last 5 let it bake out in the open. And if you want the bread to brown a little bit more, you could brush it with egg and make it look prettier, egg whites. But it's going to look pretty good anyway. That's it.